Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trilokyam Sacharacharam, Tat Padam Darshitam Yena, Asmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we're continuing our discussion of samadhi and how Shankara says we need to practice nirvikalpa samadhi. And in fact, we can't really practice nirvikalpa. We can only really practice savikalpa, this tuning up of the mind, this intense introversion. And then when all the vasanas have been exhausted, the mind slips into nirvikalpa. And in that state, the no-thingness of the self is absolutely clear. The mind explodes. One sees that no personal sense of self is real. In fact, it is gone. We see the phenomenal world as nothing but consciousness, appearing as name and form. Two powerful words, as and is. Consciousness is. There's no place where it's absent. And the world is consciousness appearing as name and form. So we're not only practicing this samadhi in our meditation seat, but endeavoring to do it throughout all our waking hours. So 373, Justin, is that where we were?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute.
That's
yes,
okay.
373.
Ganesh, will you help us out, please?
Antastyago bahistyago viraktasyaiva yujyate yajatyantah bahisangam viraktastu mumukshaya. A man of dispassion alone is fit for this internal and external renunciation. For the man of dispassion, out of his desire to be free, readily renounces both internal and external attachments.
Yes. So many of us have the experience call it the yo-yo state, where sometimes either when I'm in class or even if in my meditation seat, everything quietens. I'm very clear about my essential nature. But then I go out there in the world and I get triggered. I get my feelings hurt. I get reactive. I get annoyed. I get angry. I get fearful. Why? Because I'm not a person of detachment or dispassion. It means I continue to invest in the reality of the phenomenal world of name and form. So this is why it's important in samadhi. Keep the mind tuned up. Let everything just pass through. Just be empty. Be empty. Be empty. This is what it means to give up the world. It doesn't mean we need to change where we live, change our job, anything. It means quit taking the phenomenal world as joy-giving or misery-producing. And give up all our ideas of self, meaning the various stories, the traumas of our family of origin, my relationships with this, that, and the other person, ways in which I define self. Let them all go. How do I know I have an attachment or an identification? Because I get disturbed. If I am disturbed, no matter the cause, I have an attachment, I have an identification. What's the practice? Drop it. Get over it. Let it go. We do this over and over and over again. Any thoughts on this?
I like how you said that. I don't think I've heard it that clearly before, but you've probably said it many times. But stop taking the phenomenal world as either joy giving or misery producing. It's very, yeah, it was very clear when you said it that way. Interesting.
And actually, some people are pretty good at giving up their attachments to the positive things. They don't think they have particularly an attachment for money or prestige or importance. But boy, the world still continues to annoy them. And those are attachments too.
Yeah, that's the whole point. You said joy and misery, just like the whole detach. Yeah.
The whole thing has to go.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, comments?
Hey, Jim, this is David. The yo-yo state is just what you described as the yo-yo state is feeling very familiar to me right now.
Die. It's better than being in total ignorance.
Absolutely. No, I mean, yesterday I was getting so frustrated with Gloria actually, and at one point I was just like, oh my goodness, I gotta drop it.
Yes. Now, let's talk a little bit about guru as a principle. Swamiji always used to say the external guru, the teacher, is a temporary psychological device. Guru is a principle. If we want to frame it in Christian terms, it's the salvific principle, that which saves us. So Guru, first of all, the real inner guidance, the one who directs you, is in the wisdom of your own heart. But in terms of the world, one of the purposes of the Guru is to poke our buttons. Swamiji did that a lot. He did it mostly by mimicking us and humor. He wasn't mean about it ever, but he would show us the mirror of our stupidity and our vanity. Make fun of it, the human condition. But if something in the world is bugging us, that's my Guru. Ego says, whack it, run from it, be nice to it, manipulate it, be passive aggressive, do something so it quits annoying you. Yoga says, just don't do something, stand there. Don't avoid the painful or vexing situation. Stay present to it. And do nothing. And your subtle body may just shake, rattle, and roll, and you stay empty. Be present. Now, if we don't do that, guess what happens? So was that David who made that comment? It sounded like you.
Yes, that's David.
Okay, so you got annoyed, and who did you get annoyed at?
At Gloria.
At Gloria. Tell me that's the first time you felt that.
Not at all.
Yeah. So guess where the annoyance is? It's not Gloria.
No, it's with me. Yeah.
It's you. And it will keep happening until you drop it. Gloria is your guru.
Yeah.
And if Gloria goes on a trip and you still got that particular klesha, dosha, that defect, that attachment, someone else will annoy you until you let it go. And that's, once we get that, then all of a sudden the world is no longer such an irritating place. It's my guru. And out of love, it holds up the mirror of my attachments and identifications and says, drop it, drop it, drop it. And when we finally drop it, one of two things will happen. If the situation occurs again, it doesn't bother us. But frequently, it ceases to occur in our lives. It's very interesting. The Lord has no need to bother you. The Lord will go bother somebody else for a while. Any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, that's a lot better. I think that sounds like a very good way for my practice and a good for my marriage way to approach things. And frankly, good, it's the same applies with, the other two people I spend most time with, my two kids, right? They're, if I can use them as little gurus, when they poke my buttons, then I've got a lot of gurus around me.
As do we all. Because that's life. That's what it does. Anybody else? All right, next verse.
Bahistu Vishayai Sangamam. Bahistu Vishayai Sangam. Tathantar Amadibhi Virakta Eva Shaknoti Tyaktum Brahmani Nishtitaha. Only the man of dispassion, who is thoroughly established in Brahman, can give up his external attachment for objects and internal attachment to the ego, etc.
So we also have to understand that it's not just attachments to the external objects, it's also attachments to ego, meaning approval, need to feel important, getting praise from people, or being triggered by criticism, or feeling despondent when you're alone. Any idea of self. I-ness and minus. It all has to go. I'm thinking of a student who had a tremendous need to feel honored and respected by people. And he had a good rationale. He came from the military, where honor and reputation, my name, is an important thing. And he was in a very high-powered executive position. And other people in the organization did a power grab and accused him of being unethical and a crook. And it was devastating to him. Not that he lost the position, but that people dishonored him. Ooh, that's guru. All of it has to go. So what was my suggestion? Pray for the people who've dishonored you. Continue to treat them with respect. Do not let your mind go to revenge or redress or hate. By my name, they dishonored my name. Does Brahman have a name? Brahman has 1,000 names. Let it all go. Any thoughts on this? Now, practically speaking, remember we can only do our own yoga. We can't do someone else's. So frequently through life, you and I will do things that hurt people unintentionally, without, we don't mean to hurt them. And if they get hurt, what you don't want to do is say, drop it, get over it. They'll just turn around and punch you. If we've been in the wrong, make an amend, clean it up. Be willing to admit when we've been wrong. Why would I have a hard time admitting I've been wrong? Ego. So we're hard on ourselves, always forgiving and compassionate with others. All. No blaming for a yogi. Next verse.
वैराग्यबोधो पुरुषस्य पक्षिवत् पक्षौ विजानीहि विचक्षणत्वं विमुक्तिसौधाग्रलताधिरोहणं ताभ्यां विना नान्यतरेण सिद्ध्यति. Please understand, O wise one, that dispassion and discrimination in an aspirant are like the two wings of a bird. Unless both are active, no one can take the help of just one and fly to the creeper of liberation, which grows, as it were, atop a bungalow.
So this is a reference to when you have domesticated birds. So I know all about this because when I was a kid, we used to raise chickens. Now, many people don't realize chickens can fly. They don't fly much, but they can fly up into trees and they can fly over fences and they can certainly escape a yard. So when you want to keep the chickens so they don't fly away, do you clip both their wings? Anybody know? Nope. You only
You
need to
just
clip one.
Yeah, you only
Yeah.
need to clip one.
You just take scissors and you cut the flight feathers. Doesn't hurt
Yeah.
them. It's like getting a
Yeah.
haircut.
Yeah.
And then they go.
No, it just makes them bite. Yeah,
Pardon me?
it makes them bite to one side. They can't,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the metaphor. You may think that you're very skilled in discriminating between the self and the not self. One wing. But if you don't have vairagya, dispassion, you're like a chicken with one wing caught. So we want both wings to fly to the infinite. So Viveka and Vairagya are the two wings of the great Hansa. Hansa in Sanskrit means a swan. It's a vehicle. It takes us to the infinite. But it's a pun because it also means aham saha. I am that. So again, here we are at some of the most advanced teaching of Viveka Chudamani. And Shankara says, go all the way back to the qualifications of a fit student. What are the first two qualifications? Viveka, discrimination. That firm conviction in the intellect that Brahman alone is real and the phenomenal world is unreal, illusion, mithya, is called discrimination. Vairagya, that desire to give up all attachment to enjoyments gained through the senses, and that desire to give up identification with any form of self, from the body up to and including the form of Brahma. It's not about self-improvement. It's about self-abandonment, self-forgetting. Viveka, constant practice of the cornerstones of our practice. If you have them, the flight to the infinite is fast and simple. Next one.
अत्यंत वैराग्यवतः समाधिः समाहितस्यैव दृढप्रबोधः प्रबुद्धतत्त्वस्य हि बन्धुमुक्तिः मुक्तात्मनो नित्यसुखानुभूतिः. A man of extreme dispassion alone experiences samadhi. A man of samadhi alone has steady realization. A man who has realized truth alone is free from bondage, and the free personality alone has the experience of eternal bliss.
So, what is the difference between what we call the lip Vedanta and the man or woman of wisdom? The lip Vedanta understands it all intellectually. But does not have the profound peace, the moksha, the liberation that the scriptures extol. So this is the process. Now you know what to do. The key is give up the world. Finish it. Just give it up. I'm not saying run away to the mountains. Give up your concern for the world. This allows a person to be able to easily tune up the mind into samadhi. Only the person who can revel in samadhi has steady wisdom. Not a person who's written lots of books, not the person who has an active YouTube channel. But you can feel it. When you're with a person, and you tune to their mind, you go into samadhi, and they're there. Oh yes, this person is a knower of the infinite. I love the Sufi term, that person has the taste. There's a wonderful Hebrew psalm. I think it's 34, if I recall. One of the the line says, taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Brahmananda rasa. Rasa means juice or nectar. Juice of the bliss of Brahman. And there's no end to how deeply the mind can revel in Brahman. gets better and better and better. And the key, Vairagya. Next verse.
Vairagyanna param sukhasya janakam pashyami vashyatmanah tacchechu taratma bodha sahitam swarajya samrajya dhuk etadvaram ajastra mukti yuvatehe yasmat त्वमस्मात् परं सर्वत्र स्पृहया सदात्मनि सदा प्रज्ञां कुरु श्रेयसे. For a self-controlled man, I find no better generator of happiness than dispassion. And if that is coupled with a clear realization of the self, it brings about absolute sovereignty within and without. And since this is the gateway to the damsel of permanent liberation, so for your own well-being, be dispassionate both within and without, always fixing your mind on the eternal self.
Yeah. Tune up the mind. Let go of the world. And if you fall an extrovert, when you think of it, tune up the mind. Let go of the world. Over and over again. Till you get stuck there. Oh. Nothing is more important in your sadhana than samadhi. Next verse.
Asham chindi vishopameshu vishayeshveshvaiva mritayo kritihi tyaktva jati kulashrameshva bhimatin munchadi dura kriyaha dehadavasati त्यजात्मधिषणां प्रज्ञां कुरुष्वात्मनि त्वं द्रष्टास्यमलोऽपि निर्द्वयपरं ब्रह्मासि यद्वस्तुतः. Cut asunder your craving for sense objects, which are like poison. It is the very image of death, and giving up your pride of caste, family, order of life. Throw far away all selfish actions. Renounce your identification with such unreal things as the body, and fix your mind upon the self. For in reality, you are the witness, Brahman, untainted by the mind, non-dual, supreme.
So it is twofold. Here, in many words, he's echoed what Gita says. When a person casts off all the desires of the mind, O Partha, first part, and is satisfied in the self, by the self. Tune up the mind. then they are said to be a person of steady wisdom. Now, here Shankara says, give up identification with caste, creed, station of life, etc. Also, give up your identification with the negative things. Oh, I was sexually abused as a child. Oh, I had this childhood trauma. Oh, I was raised in great poverty. Our family, blah, 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 blah. My mother was crazy. All those stories. Drop it. A bad marriage. Oh, he was so terrible, or she was so terrible. Drop it. Think of it like a dream. Let it go. Let it go. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah. Hari Om. This is Susali. I just want to.
I can hear your musical voice.
Oh, I just was gonna say that, I have moments like that when I can just let go of the mind because, or the memories because they're in the mind. And if I let go of the mind, I do have those seconds or maybe sometimes they're more than seconds of freedom or like, just like, I don't know, like lightness and then, but it just feels like it's like a street fight because the mind won't let go. It'll find anything to attach itself to something like that is still stuck in, on the bottom of my shoe. And I don't know, it just seems to me that it's sometimes I even that I when the mind presents itself with all the stories again, I don't disregard, I don't say nothing, I don't fight it anymore. I just see it and it's there. And I don't know if just I'm confusing myself more, but I it's just like I know it's there, but I just don't mind it. I don't know. Is that, I don't know. It's working for now anyway. And I don't know if, just keeping it like in the back of my head, knowing that it's there, whatever it's telling me. And just like not ignoring it, but just not paying attention to it. I don't know how to say it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Anybody else? Next verse.
Lakshye Brahmani Manasam Dridataram Samsthapya Bahyendriyam Svasthane Viniveshya Nishchala Tanushchopekshya Dehasthitim Brahmatmaikyam Upetya Tanmayataya Chakhanda Nisham Brahmanandarasam Vivatmani Mudashunyaihi Kimanyai Bhrisham. fixing the mind firmly on Brahman, the point of concentration, restraining the sense organs in their respective sense centers, holding the body steady and giving up all thought for its maintenance, attaining identity with Brahman and being one with it. Continuously drink the bliss of Brahman in your own self. Of what use are other things? They are entirely false, empty.
Yes. So in your meditation seat, with the body still, the senses subdued, with the mind intensely introverted, focused on I. Give up the world. Give up the ego. And keep drinking of the bliss of the self. As much as you can. Very end of the 6th chapter of Gita, which is the yoga of meditation, Arjuna says, "Oh, Krishna, this control of the mind, it's like trying to control the wind. It's an impossibility." And Krishna says, it is difficult, but it can be done with practice. Don't give up. Next verse.
अनात्मचिन्तनं त्यक्त्वा कश्मलं दुःखकारणं चिन्त्यात्मानम् आनन्दरूपं यन्मुक्तिकारणम्. Having renounced all thought of the not self, which is evil and productive of misery, think of the self, the bliss absolute, which conduces to liberation.
So giving up the worry, the chintya of the not self, being concerned about the world and its stupid little problems. Keep remembering to turn the mind towards Brahman, towards yourself. Continuing to tune it up, practicing samadhi. Over and over again. Next verse.
एष स्वयं ज्योतिः शेषसाक्षी विज्ञानकोशे विलसत्यजस्रं लक्ष्यं विधायै नवसद्विलक्षणम् अखण्डवृत्तयात्मतयानुभावय. Eternally shines this Atman, the self-effulgent witness of all things, which has the intellect for its seat, making this Atman, which is distinct from the unreal, your point of contemplation. Meditate upon it as your own self, eliminating all other thoughts.
Beautiful verse. So it has the intellect as its seat. So if we think of the intellect as the place where thought and the absence of thought happens, stop the thoughting, and the residual is pure awareness. Make that pure awareness which shines as I, the focus of your attention. Give up this silly world. Stay immersed in yourself. Next verse.
Etam macchinnaya vrittaya pratyayantara shunyaya ullekhyam vijaniyat swaswarupataya sphutam. Contemplating continuously upon this Atman, with no intervention of any other thought, one must distinctly realize it as one's own real self.
So as you're immersed in this samadhi with the attention focused on the Atman, yourself, don't let other thoughts intervene. Let them go. Bring the mind back to aham. I. Next verse.
Atratmatvam dridhikurvan ahamadishu santyajan udasinataya teshu tishthet sphuta ghatadivat. By strengthening one's identification with the self, and by renouncing all identifications with the ego, etc., one must live with no concern for them, as if they were trifles, like a broken pot or the like.
Yes. So we give up our concern for the phenomenal world and anything that's in it. Doesn't mean you engage in bad behavior. Pay your rent, pay the utilities, take care of your spouse, your children, etc. But inside, like a broken pot. Phrase I like to use, the whole world becomes trinkets and baubles, glass beads, maybe pretty to look at, but nothing of value. Why? Because you found the pearl of great price, reveling in the self. Yogi has a different playground than the ordinary person. Next one.
Vishuddhamantakaranam swarupe niveshya sakshinya vabodhamatre shanai shanaihi nishchalatamupanayan purnam swamevanu vilokaya tattah. By fixing the purified inner equipment upon the self, which is the witness and knowledge absolute, little by little making it quiet, one must try to realize one's infinite self.
Fixing my mind on myself, letting go of the world. It's practice, strengthening this identification with that witnessing consciousness, not the ego. So you realize I am that space of consciousness. This world is mithya, illusion, vaitatya, falseness, pratibimba, like a reflection in a mirror. Pretty to look at, but not substantial, like a rainbow. Next verse.
Dehendriya prana manoharam adhibihi swajnana kriptair akhilair upadhibihi vimuktamatmanam akhandarupam purnam mahakasham ivavalokayet. Free from all limitations like the body, sense organs, pranas, mind, and ego, which are the projections of one's ignorance. Let one come to realize the Atman, the indivisible and infinite, like the great endless sky.
So yourself is unlimited, infinite, vast like the sky. Cast far away your identification with the body and the personality. Cast far away your concern for the phenomenal world and all of its silliness. Stay rooted in yourself. When the mind extroverts and you remember, bring it back. Next one.
Ghatakala Shakusula Suchimukhyaihi Gaganam Upadhi Shataihi Vimuktamekam Bhavatina Vividham Tathaiva Shuddham Paramaham Adi Vimuktam Ekameva. Having dropped hundreds of its limitations, such as a pot, a pitcher, a barn, or the eye of a needle, space is recognized as one and not many. So too Brahman is indeed one when denuded of the ego, etc.
So cup space, barn space, even the eye of a needle space, when you let go of all those upadis, those conditionings, space is just space, empty, vast. Likewise, by thinning the mind, drop my identification with all of the conditionings. I see myself as Chidakash, the space of consciousness itself. Chidananda Rupaham, I'm of the form of bliss consciousness. Next one.
ब्रह्मादिस्तंभ पर्यंता वृषामात्रा उपाधयः ततः पूर्णं स्वमात्मानं पश्येदेकात्मना स्थितम्. Right from Brahma to the most insignificant unicellular organism, all conditionings are quite unreal. Therefore, one should realize oneself as the only existent principle.
So not only is my own body, mind, intellect, vasanas, all of it unreal, let go of it. But in the phenomenal world, all of the objects, the total mind, even God the Creator, unreal. What's real? Pure awareness, which I experience as I. Everything else is just imagination. One more.
यत्र भ्रान्त्या कल्पितं तद्विवेके तत्तन्मात्रं नैव तस्मात् विभिन्नं. भ्रान्तेः नाशे भ्रान्तिदृष्टा हि तत्त्वं रज्जुस्तद् विद्विश्वमात्मा स्वरूपम्. Where by mistake something is imagined to exist, there, on right discrimination, the real itself is recognized. There is nothing other than it. With the error removed, the falsely perceived snake itself becomes the rope. So too, the entire universe is in truth only the Atman.
Yes. So just as the dream world is nothing but a figment of my imagination, and upon awakening, poof, it's gone. So also the world of the waking state, meaning I'm a person and the names and forms are solid, and I find joy and sorrow out there. That is the world. When the self is realized and you can retire into the self, and we're not deluded when my senses report a world of name and form. years and years and years ago, this is in 1973, I lived in a big old Victorian 3-story house on Dwight and Telegraph in a hippie commune. And there were these wonderful grand stairs that went up to the second floor and stuff like that. And we used to play this game. We had this prism. And if you stood at the top of the stairs and you looked through the prism, it would distort everything. So the risers on the stairs, which were in fact, I guess, what's standard, 6 inches, they looked like they were about 2 feet. And so we'd stand at the top of the stairs and look through the prism. And then, you know, it was really weird to try to walk down the stairs. What you had to do is not believe your sight. It's not easy. It was like trying to walk downstairs blindfolded or with your eyes shut. You had to disregard your visual senses because it was distorted. So this is the kind of thing that Shankar is inviting us to do. Our minds are like a prism, and they create this distorted view of reality called the phenomenal world. In truth, what's there is undivided consciousness. Vijnana Ganam is the word Gaudapada uses. A homogeneous mass of consciousness. Just like my mind wanted to react to what my senses were reporting. Oh my God, that's like a 2-foot riser on the stairwell. My knowledge had to be it was ordinary flight of stairs. So my senses report a world of name and form with all its silliness. Don't let the mind extrovert. Give it up. Tune up the mind. Okay, we'll stop here tonight. We have a few minutes for questions. Anybody have any comments or questions?
What's the next verse?
I don't know. Ganesh, what's the next verse?
It is 388.
388 will be the next verse.
Okay, thanks. I guess I'm still not that great at Vairagya.
Oh, actually, it's 389 is the next verse.
389 is the next verse. And Justin, it's good to know what the problem is.
Yeah.
It's good to know what the problem is. Because then you can begin to work on it.
Well, you can't do anything if you can't see it. Yeah. Yeah.
And some of us have stronger vasanas, more reactivity than others. We don't get to choose that. That's what the vasana bundle we came in with.
Well, there's that line from the Mandukya I really like. The mind is only brought under control by undepressed effort. It is like emptying the ocean drop by drop with the tip of a blade of crucigrass. It goes very well with that line that you were talking about in the Gita. You know,
Yes.
we're
yes.
controlling the wind.
Fact,
You know,
That's where he took it from, his Gita.
oh, was it? Okay.
Any other thoughts? Now, if you've got Swamiji's copy in front of you, you will notice that this section going back a couple of weeks, you see that Swamiji's commentary gets shorter and shorter. Have you noticed that? Because this is the section where our experience and our intellectual understanding frequently diverge the most. When Shankara has come to this part of the text, first of all, it's of no value to someone who can't tune up and abide in samadhi. If you don't know whether you're in samadhi, I don't know what to tell you. That's the problem with Zoom. If you're here, you can feel it. I can feel it when you are tuned up. I can feel it when you're not. And you can say, oh, Jim, I'm so high, I'm so high. And okay. But I can feel it when your minds have dropped. Zoom, it's another story. No questions? Well, we can have a nice long meditation.